Insurance agents from around the world. Hey guys, this is Scott Howell with the Insurance Guys podcast. Hey, I've got a question for you guys. How many service calls do you get a day? How about a week? How about a month? More importantly, how many of those calls are revenue generating? If not, why are you still taking those calls? The reality is that clients don't want to call their agent for things like documents, billing, service requests. These are considered non-revenue generating activities that can and should be handled with a client experience platform, CXP. The rule of thumb is, can you rely on your technology to fully accomplish the same thing being asked over the phone? If the answer is yes, give the client that option, please. Now is the time to look into a CXP for your agency, a client experience platform. A CXP is a core system at your agency, just like your AMS, just like your CRM, just like your Rater. Having a client experience platform like GloveBox gives you a leg up on the competition and allows you to focus on sales, which we better all be focusing on because nothing else matters, and high-level service. Get a demo today with one of the GloveBox gurus and mention the Insurance Guys podcast to get 20% off your new CXP. Trust me when I say it's time to jump on the GloveBox platform. I know we've done it here in our agency. We love it. We're desperately trying to get all of our clients on the GloveBox platform, guys. Desperately. We want them on there. We want them to go get their ID cards there. We want to reduce the number of times they call the agency, and that frees us up to do more selling. That's all it does. Call today, get a demo, and join GloveBox.
Hey guys, it's Bradley. Every now and then a company comes across my desk that not only blows my mind in what they're able to accomplish, but we implement that particular technology in Portal and it completely changes the way we do business. That's happened a few times with a few different companies. And it happened this year with Ascend. In case you don't know, Ascend saves agent time by simplifying the time-consuming process of collecting payments, premium financing, and carrier payables without the back and forth paperwork, integrated right into your checkout experience where customers can pay how they want. Credit, debit, ACH, own the entire customer experience. It's branded to your agency and offer a modern checkout experience that your customers want. Ascend will also, this is the big one for me, automatically pay the provider, the carrier, the MGA, so you don't have to deal with the payables. It turns agency bill into direct bill. It combines the benefits of agency bill, owning the experience, with the convenience of direct bill. Don't have to worry about collections, payables, so you get the best of both worlds. And the best part is there's no subscription, no fee, and no cost to the agents. Stop wasting time on payments so you can focus on growing your business. Go to useascend.com/insurance guys. I'm telling you guys, this is not just a promotion. This company is going to change the insurance industry. They've already changed Portal. Useascend.com/insurance guys. That's USEASCEND.com/insurance guys. Tell them we sent you. Thanks.
Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast, powered by GloveBox. God, I love GloveBox. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Saraland, Alabama. Parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
Great, Scott. How are you today?
That might be the best intro I've ever done.
You did it pretty good. It was good.
Well, thank you. Bradley?
Yes.
Would you like the latest and greatest?
I know everyone is sitting on the edge of their seats because they're like, they feel like they're holding your hand along this journey because you've been so transparent about it.
I'm so humbled and blessed to have so many great people reach out to me. Some of them I can't even get back to. Some of them are emailing me, texting me, Facebook messaging me. things like, hey man, I just want you to know I'm with you and I love you. And if there's anything I can do, I'll come down there and help. And some people are like, dude, same thing happened to me last year.
I saw one of those
it's,
come through on the insurance guys page, and that's gotta like, I know if I was in your shoes, that would make me feel a lot better, you know?
Yeah. So here's the latest and greatest. And before I tell you all this, I'm going to tell you the one thing. I met with a client of mine. It's been a client of mine for a long time, and they're dissolving their business right now. And they've made more money than a damn show dog can jump over. Bradley, these people back in the day had 15 cell phone stores, but not normal, because, you know, like we're used to nowadays, like seeing like AT&T store, Sprint, Verizon. Do you remember what was the cell phone in the South that everybody had?
Southern Link.
Southern Link.
That's who I used to work for. I used to work for Southern Link.
They had like 15, I think they were independent Southern Link stores, and they sold out to a hedge fund from somewhere. I don't know where the hedge fund was at, but they sold out like years ago and then opened up another business.
A lot of farmers had Southern Link because it would get service out in the fields where normal cell phones wouldn't have service.
Bradley, ask me how much I miss the Southern Link, because I used to have a Southern Link. You could press the side of it like a walkie-talkie. Oh, I want that so bad right now.
There was a BlackBerry made a phone that did that you could do that with.
So they sold out. But I went over to their offices the other day because they're liquidating their business, and we're getting ready to shut everything down as far as their insurance goes, because they had drivers and different things and people and all this stuff. Well, now they don't need all that, because now they're down to just basically a shell of a building, right?
Right.
Well, they had, and I knew this, but when I first met them back in 2013, they had just had the same thing happen to them. And we start comparing notes. Guys, let me tell you what you need to do. We're all screwing up is not looking at the checks. They did the same thing I did. They were printing off the statements. They had, everything
seemed to check out, so it was all good.
Yep, everything's good. And she said that his wife said the same thing to me. She said, Scott, you and I both did the exact same thing. We never printed off the checks and looked at the checks. If we'd have done that, it'd have been over. So that's my advice. But let me give you an update, Bradley. Amy was arrested Tuesday, charged with a Class B felony in the state of Alabama. Class B felony.
That is the same thing as the same felony as statutory rape.
Correct. Yes, that is correct.
As I correctly predicted.
Yep. $10,000 bond. So 10% of the bond would be $1,000 to get out of jail. She bailed out or bonded out in about 3 hours. Here's where the story.
That's a long time in jail if you've never been to jail. I've never been to jail, but
here's where the story just took a right-hand turn to Albuquerque. Are you ready, Bradley? And you already know this because I sent you a screenshot of the email last night and you said, OMG.
You did. Yes.
You said, wow.
Yeah.
I get home last night at 6:00. I've been fighting fires all day long. Got my firefighter outfit on, worked on forensics accounting. We're doing 1 month a day. So now we're up to like June of 2021, reconciling the sweep account. I get home last night and I walk in the door and I happened to look down at my phone. I had an email, which I get about 400 emails a day, but I could tell this one was from the fraud investigator with the Huntsville PD. So I open up the email and it reads, Dear Mr. Howell, I just wanted to notify you that I have been contacted by the Secret Service. This case has hit their radar because of the amount of money that was stolen. And they are about to press charges and would like to interview you next week. And I said, bring them on. I'll put a damn dip of skull in my mouth and go in the conference room and I'll answer any question the Secret Service wants to ask.
It's okay to be interviewed by the Secret Service if you're the one that didn't do anything wrong.
Bring on the FDIC regulators. I don't give a shit. Bring them all on. I don't care. So next week, I now have an appointment for them to come to me. And guys, let me say this to everybody listening to this right now. And then we're going to get to our all-star guest today because I've spent too much time updating everybody. If you're going to steal the money, here's my advice. If you're going to steal the money, do not repeat. Let all of your people in your office listen to this, guys. Do not steal over $100,000.
That is not legal advice.
Because here's what I think is happening. If you go over $100,000, now we're talking, as Bradley said correctly on the other podcast that we did when we did the story of Amy, now you're looking at big boy jail.
And the only reason I'm familiar with that is I had a former client that did something kind of similar, and we looked up kind of like what the charges would be, and I was like, ooh,
Yeah, now you're facing federal.
Yeah.
It's one thing to face state charges on a Class B felony. It's another thing. You do not want FBI, Secret Service, CIA, any of that sniffing around your office. I can promise you that. Okay.
Well, too, like the worst industry to commit fraud in my opinion, is the financial services industry. And right below that is the insurance industry.
Right.
So,
right. Guys, we got an all-star guest for you today. Our mission on this podcast is to help you agents in any way we can. I got a cool down dude on this podcast today, guys. And I can tell already just from our short conversation before we got on here, he's my kind of people. And without further ado, I want to give him the introduction that he has always deserved. He is originally from Laguna Beach, California, and he currently resides in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He is widely considered as a prominent insurtech entrepreneur with deep experience in both broker and insurer distribution environments. Previously, he was the founder and CEO of Tech Canary, an insurtech leader building an innovative set of insurance solutions on the Salesforce platform that allowed agencies to have more choices. God, I love choices and flexibility. Today, he is the Chief Executive Officer of Ivans, tasked with leading the expansion of the Ivans strategy and all business functions to accelerate the digitization of insurance connectivity and analytics across the insurance industry. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor today to introduce to you first-time guest on the IGP, Mr. Reid Holzworth. How are you, Reid?
Doing great, man. Thank you. Happy to be here. That was a lot of big words, man. I'm glad it took me years to understand what all those meant. But yeah, thanks for the intro.
There are people that probably just wrecked their car that a redneck from Alabama was able to say the word digitization. Digitization.
That was a mouthful.
And Ivans became Ivans.
Ivans. Reid, we have so much to talk about today, but before we do, let's go back. Let's get in my DeLorean right now and go back in time. Tell us about how you got in the industry, how you came up, which I've heard about Tech Canary for 4 or 5 years, never used it, but I have heard of it quite frequently. How did you get in the industry, and just kind of bring us up to today?
Yeah. So many years ago, I was in the construction world, actually, originally, and I owned a construction company. And when the market fell out in 08 or so, we were still working. We had a lot of guys running, but it was just, the money kind of dried up, frankly. It just wasn't the same. And at that time, I had a couple of friends of mine that I had done work for years, guys that were real estate investors and whatnot. And they wanted a more of a reoccurring revenue type business. So about a year prior, probably 07 maybe, they purchased a small insurance agency, was actually a nationwide agency, but then they went full independent. And anyways, in 08, these guys were crushing it. Like, I think it was 06 when they acquired the agency. 08, they were still crushing it. And so I said to these guys, I'm like, man, like, this insurance thing is good. And how come every insurance agent that I know is doing so well, regardless of kind of where the market is? And so they said, hey, man, why don't you go get your insurance license and I'll show you what's up. And so I said, all right, we'll try it. And so anyways, so I did. And I went to work for these guys. At the time, they had multiple locations, huge. I'm not going to name names, but big agency now. And but smaller then. And so they gave me their, at the time, the largest agency that they had to run. I didn't know anything about insurance, but I knew these guys. And hey, I was all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I just got my insurance license. I thought I knew something, but not a whole lot. And it was a funny story because the first day I kind of walk in there and into this office to take over, and like my staff are looking at me like, I'm not going to use the colorful word I'd normally use on this, but like, who is this dude? Like, what is going on here? And this guy knows nothing. How is this guy like doing this and running this shop?
How old were you?
I'm now 42, about to be 42. So that first day, a client comes in, a walk-in, right? Sits down, he says, hey, I have all these policies and I want to switch it all to you guys. And they go, oh, and then the CSR goes, oh, go see the boss man over there. I have never quoted a piece of business in my life. And this poor guy, like, I sat there for it was like all day quoting his stuff and I had no idea. But anyways, speed that up. I did that for a number of years, really cut my teeth on it, successful in that business. Prior to that, I've really just been kind of serial entrepreneur. I've always kind of had my own company, my own business in a number of ways. And so I really learned the business and I said, you know what, I think I can go out and do this on my own and go and start my own agency. And so, but during that time of being there, I found how critical it was that the agency management system and the technology that we used for our business. And I realized like, wow, there are things that can be done leveraging this technology to make us more efficient, one. But two, if we were able to change things within the technology to streamline it in certain ways, that would give us a competitive edge, right? And so speed that up, I went and left the agency, started my own agency. And when I did so, knowing the main systems, I still looked at all the usual suspects of agency management system vendors. And what I wanted didn't really exist. And so I kind of stumbled at the time across Salesforce. And Salesforce was like this weird black box back then. Like people didn't really know Salesforce, especially in our industry. But it was like, oh, you can customize it, you can build stuff on here. And I just started getting into it. And so ultimately I ended up purchasing Salesforce and then building an agency management system on top of Salesforce. Right. Now, the agency was good at the time. We ended up franchising the agency. We sold a bunch of franchises. So that was doing well. But at a point, Salesforce reached out because I was doing a lot with those guys. And they were like, this thing is pretty cool what you've built. And at the time, people weren't building kind of bigger solutions on the Salesforce platform. They were using it primarily just as a CRM. So long story short, they said, hey, you ever think about taking this thing and packaging it up and selling it? And I was like, no, but wow, what does that look like? And partnering with Salesforce, like I could take this and sell this. And like, yeah, we're just starting this whole partner ecosystem and all this stuff. And so this is really early on for those that are out there that kind of know the Salesforce world. At this point, it was free to become a Salesforce partner. Wow. I don't even know what it is now. It's like tens of thousands of dollars. And they have, it depends on what level you want to be at. If you're a platinum partner, it's probably $1 million now to be a platinum partner. Wow. With Salesforce. This was free back then. And so
you often don't hear the words Salesforce and free in the same sentence at all.
Right. So kind of right time, right place. And so anyways, I ended up walking away with the agency. I had a partner there. I said, hey, I'm going to go take the technology and run a software company. And literally I said, you keep the agency and I'm taking the tech. And at the time, he thought I was the dumbest person on earth. He's like, oh, okay, dude, dumbass. Like, and I'm like, hey, I really see value in this thing. And it was a real success. So you speed that up. Tech Canary was wildly successful. We became the #1 insurance solution on the Salesforce platform worldwide. We worked with all kinds of different companies within that. We worked with MGAs, wholesalers, carriers, a lot of the insurtechs did. So if you go back a couple of years, most people that are out there that said, hey, we built our own thing on top of the Salesforce platform, they were typically our customer. They used our solution and they built tons of stuff on top of it. Right. So it's like we did the initial heavy lift and then they built all this proprietary stuff around it, which is really cool. So we really got exposed to lots of different types of companies within the insurance ecosystem. Yeah, long story short, we were out doing a capital raise. We basically bootstrapped that company. I raised a tiny bit of money, $3 million in the whole existence of Tech Canary, which is unheard of these days. And we said, hey, we're going to go raise a big bunch of cash because we want to really go after it. And in doing that, we just all kinds of acquisition offers came out of the woodwork and all this, and it was just great. And we just ultimately decided to sell the business. So we sold the business to Applied. And a lot of people don't know this story. The reason why, so at the time on the board of Tech Canary, we had some very, very big people within the insurance technology space that were part of our business, people that really know our world. And when we looked at the opportunities that were out there and the offers that were presented to us, said, hey, what is the biggest opportunity long term? Where can we actually impact change and do stuff? Because we're having a lot of fun. We're changing things. We're helping the industry in a lot of ways. Although a smaller business, we really were. People that know the story and were part of all that, they would say so. We looked at it, Applied was number one. And why? Well, it's because Applied owns Ivans. And Ivans, and we'll get into that in a minute, I'm sure, Ivans has been around for 40 years, and Ivans really was built to connect the industry in so many ways. And if you could get your hands on that and innovate within that and start to drive true innovation and true platform stuff and whatnot, you can really affect the industry in a positive way. That's exciting. And so it took a little bit, but I eventually convinced old Taylor Rhodes, who's the now CEO of Applied, hey man, let me take this thing, and here we are. So I've been the CEO of Ivans now for about a year and a half or so. And yeah, we're kicking ass and having fun. So that's super long-winded, but there you go. There's the whole story.
A couple things on that, back to the beginning of the story, it's like Beauty and the Beast, tale old as time. Like the insurance industry, to people like in our agency, I mean, our competitive advantage is that we go after younger people straight out of college to try to get them in the industry. And our office and our culture is more like a marketing agency than it is an insurance agency. And so like that all that kind of helps. But I do struggle sometimes having these young people and conveying to them that the insurance industry is sexy. And it's one of those things that when you're on the outside looking in, it doesn't look cool at all. But once you get on the inside, you're like, not only is this like one of the coolest industries in the world, but you have such financial stability, not only because the insurance industry has been around for 834 years, but you also have the recurring revenue aspect of things and that sort of thing. And there's a ton of white space. There's a ton of ground that can be made up and change that can be enacted and that sort of thing. And even for me, like I remember, and I've told this story before, but I remember like when I was like I was like 16 years old, when you're 16, you think you have to have your career picked out by 18, right? And I remember like thinking like, damn, like the guys who get to play the most golf are all insurance agents. Like, why is that?
Right.
Like I remember noticing that as a kid. So I think that's so funny. And then fast forwarding to the end, I think it's kind of interesting. So you kind of like, when you guys were looking at like potential people to acquire you, you kind of sought out Applied because of Ivans. You had your mindset. And that's such a brilliant way to look at it of like, hey, look, Ivans touches almost every single part of the industry.
Yep. The opportunity is just so big and just, it's fun when you can really affect change in a positive way. Right. And it was very strategic.
Let's have tough conversation time for just a minute.
Let's do it.
A lot of people in the industry heard them say, we got to figure out a way to get rid of Ivans, to just connect, open APIs, just cut out the middleman. And nobody to date has figured out how to do that. Right.
Yeah. Except Ivans.
You have come in as the CEO now of Ivans. And you've probably, as a former insurance agent, you've probably heard some of that rumbling, I'm sure. Like, people saying, hey, we need to cut Ivans out. We need to cut out the middleman.
Well, remember, Tech Canary was a customer of Ivans because we had downloads running to our system. So, and the rest of it. So like we were a customer as well. So yes.
So the question I have for you that I'm channeling through a lot of these agents that I've heard say stuff like that before is you've been brought in to update, to digitization.
Oh, you murdered it. You said it.
I know. Lucky I didn't do it the first go around. you've been brought in to kind of make Ivan sexy and do more things and update it and create better connectivity and all that good stuff. What are you doing exactly to, bring Ivans up to 2022 and to make it, to where people are like, you know what? I was wrong. We need to keep Ivans. They're kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah, man. So let's talk about what Ivans is. So people that say that, frankly, and it's going to sound mean to the people that say it.
That's fine. I got a thick skin.
They don't really understand what that means, technically speaking.
Right.
So today, Ivans connects close to 500 carriers, MGAs, wholesalers, okay, down to 32,000 agencies.
Right.
Okay. Now those are accounts within Ivans. Now you can argue there's 40, there's 50, whatever thousand agencies, but these are agencies. And remember, some agencies own a lot of other little agencies. Okay.
Right.
So today we run hundreds of millions of transactions through our pipes at Ivans. Ivans was founded almost 40 years ago by the industry. Okay. When technology started to become a thing, they say within the world, they said, hey, technology can really help us in insurance. But we need two things. We need standards, which is Accord, right? And then we need connectivity. So why does it make sense for there to be somebody that sits in the middle of the industry for connectivity? Here's why. If you're a company like I was at Tech Canary, and you wanted to go and connect to 500 carriers, how long would that take? What would that look like? So you're going to go into their core backend system, Duck Creek, Guidewire, you name it, right? Brightcore, like doesn't matter. All of these systems, you're going to have to go in there and you're going to have to connect. Now, sure, these carriers could have APIs, but is everybody's API the same? Are you building one connection to one?
There's probably no two APIs that are the same.
That's right. And so you're building integration to all of these. And that's just saying if the carriers have the APIs. Right. So the value prop of a company like Ivans is that it sits in the middle where a carrier connects up to Ivans one time. And then we're connected down to, I call it 50 agency management systems across, and then other systems, what we call distribution platforms that are out there that are then connected to 32,000 agents. As a carrier, I don't have to go out and build all of those individual connections, maintain them, service them, and do that. And then on the flip side, if I'm a technology vendor, provider, I don't have to go and connect to all those 500 carriers. Now, here's the funny thing. What value do I get as a technologist having my own proprietary connections to 500 carriers? What value do I get? I don't, because I want to build features and functionality that provide real value to my end user. In this example, would be the agent, right? Do I want to worry about, building the most streamlined issuance of certificate, right? Or do I want to worry about, I got to connect up travelers on BOP, right? Dude, if you're in this world, and then by the way, not only can you just connect to these carriers as a technology provider, you also have to convince those carriers that you're a viable product to connect to, because they don't just turn it on. Like you gotta, you know what I mean? It's like, here's our API, anybody come and connect. Like, no, that's not how it works, right? And so that's why it makes so much sense. That's why the industry came together. When I say the industry came together, these are carriers and brokers that came together almost 40 years ago and built Ivans. And so that's really the value prop. Now, when we talk about the innovation and things like that, so call it a year and a half ago, prior to me coming in and our team that we've built now coming into Ivans. Ivans was older technology. And I'll be real with you guys. It's not a tough conversation. We had scalability issues. We had downtime. There was stuff that just wasn't right with the system. Okay. And it was old tech. So what did we do? We rebuilt in the last year, we rebuilt all of our infrastructure, all of our architecture. We stood everything up on GCP, which is the cloud, Google's cloud, okay?
Right.
We built a modern platform and we stabilized it. We're not having the downtime. We're not having the issues. That stuff isn't a thing anymore.
Right.
Like That's just it. And then we said, okay, now that we're on this modern stack and we've done all this cool stuff, now you know what we're going to do? We just did a deal with Looker, which is a data visualization tool. We're going to start to provide tools back to you guys, the agents,
Keep
outside of just like, hey, here's your download and here's what that looks like. We're providing insights about your book of business and things that are happening within your book.
So how do I get that though?
It's like going to be free.
As an agency owner.
Log into Ivan's Exchange. It's coming. It's literally coming. And I'm not talking about years from now. You're talking Q3. You're going to see that on the dashboard. Right. And some of you guys that have been managing Ivan's, you'll also notice that we've also modernized the UI in that time. It's changed. We fixed a lot of stuff in there. It was just ugly, and we're continuing to do that. Now, one other thing too that we did in this last year, talking about innovation, is we built a new product. We built it, launched it last year, which is called the Ivan's Distribution Platform. A lot of people have a lot of like, what does that mean? How does it affect me? It doesn't really help the agent per se. I'll get into this in a minute. Essentially what that is, that's the pipes on the opposite end. That's the quoting pipes. So as a technology company, and I want to build, let's call it a commercial lines rater, right? What does that mean? I have to go and build and do all the connectivity to all of these individual carriers to rate. Same thing, it's a chicken and the egg. You know how many carriers get calls from, you know, a guy, a girl, a MacBook Pro and a dog and start up and go, hey, we're the next best thing. We're going to crush Bold Penguin. You know, you know how many calls those guys get on a daily basis? Hundreds, you know, I mean, not hundreds, but a lot, right? So we've built the pipes now, and now we have 13 carriers on it, which is unheard of in less than a year. The big ones, the tier ones, those are, you know, the Travelers, the Liberties, these guys.
By the way, I can see Bradley's face right now, guys. He is over there. Those wheels are spinning 4 million miles. He has smoke coming out of his ears right now. He's thinking so hard. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
So this thing, again, is just pipes. And it's pipes to enable technology companies as well as agencies, digital agencies, insurtechs, whatever they are, to then connect up into those pipes and that ecosystem via API, modern stuff, right?
Right.
One API, right? Not 8 API, one API. You connect up to IDP and then you're connected to this ecosystem. It allows you to not have to focus on building all the pipes and all that really heavy lifting back-end stuff, and allows our customers, if you will, and not even really customers, the vendors, the solution providers, the software companies, the agencies, to actually build innovation without having to build the connectivity.
Right.
So if you think about some of the things you can start to do, if I don't have to worry about that, I can go and start to think about these other things. And I'll tell you, the IDP, the Ivan's Distribution Platform, was not my idea. I mean, it was all of our idea, but a lot of it came from friends of mine who own these companies, like literally Semsi and Bold Penguin and these guys. Like, they don't want to continue to build and maintain all of that. They're like, dude, can you guys do that? If you did that, I can make my product the best, because I'm not focused on it. So it's super long-winded, but that's just some of the stuff that we have going on. And also in the meantime, in the last, call it year and a half, we've also built an entirely new leadership team. You'll notice a lot of the people that are on my team are former, like the CTO, Tech Canary, he's CTO of Ivan's, CRO of Tech Canary, CRO of Ivan's. So we've kind of brought the family back together, if you will.
Right.
And so you'll see a lot of that, but it's been a lot, but we're starting to see the fruits of all of our labor now. It's really cool. And so will you.
You mentioned the Ivan's connectivity dashboard. Talk about the importance of going into that dashboard and kind of going through all of your carriers, because I would argue that if every agency listening to this is not 100% connected, including
it's crazy. This is like one of the things. So we have it, by the way, we put a team together this year to call agents and go, did you know you're not downloading everything? So guys, if you log into Ivan's Exchange right now, there's this dashboard, and I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit confusing, but there's all these check boxes of what's available and what's you're actually connected. I can guarantee you, everybody that's listening to this, you're not 100% connected. Unless you talked to our team recently.
Yeah.
I would say 98% of the people listening to this podcast are not all connected. There is stuff that you can go and turn on, and it's free. The carriers pay for this stuff, so you can get the value. E-docs, claims, I mean, all of it, commissions, policy download. Every carrier has it in that dashboard. Here are your carriers that are available. Here are the download things that are available. You check the box and it turns it on, right? And people just don't. And it blows my mind as former agency owner, former, agency management system builder, whatever you call that, technologist. Why would you not want that data flowing into your system automatically?
Hey, Reid, let me tell you what we do. And I need every agency out there, independent agency, to listen to this shit and write it down. Okay. About once every 6 months.
Yep.
Now it's been about 6 months since we did this. So I'm going to ask you a question. Is Cal Derlin still there?
Oh yeah, man. Come on. That's
okay.
Cal runs the team I'm talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have her cell phone number and her office number, which I'm not going to give out on the air because there'll be 450 agents call her. I can give her email address out because, like you said, she's team leader, but we literally call her.
Yep.
And we'll say, hey, here's our Ivan's number. Cal, run us some reports here and tell us how good we're downloading.
Yep.
About once every 6 months. And I'll be damned if every time we don't do that, there's something we need to tweak. There's something that's off. There's something that's not downloading the way it's supposed to. Guys, if you own an independent agency, you need to go to the Ivan's Exchange, get with the team there. I don't know if you would allow me to give out her email address. I don't know if that's like a no-no, or if they just need to go to the site and do that there.
If anybody calls Ivan's, emails Ivan's, whatever, we are happy to help. We have a team of people. That's all they do.
And you've got to do that, because I'm telling you, there will be some little thing that's not either downloading properly, or you thought it was, but it's not, or this button needs to be clicked or unclicked, or so that's why about once every 6 months, we're getting in touch with her. And she knows me now because Bradley and I were introduced to her almost 4 years ago on a personal introduction. So she knows who we are. And so she answers the phone, but it's almost like you need to go to whatever calendar that you use for your business and just put a reminder every 6 months. Hey, get in touch with Ivan's and make sure our downloads are coming in correctly.
So one of the things we're working on, Scott, it's like, this is the stuff that we live this.
Right.
How about we have a checkbox that just says, hey, when something's available, just turn it on. Because it just flows in.
Right.
Right? Like one of the other issues we found is that you'll check and you'll say, hey, turn it on. And for whatever reason, it gets lost in the shuffle with the carrier, and the carrier never turns it on. Mm-hmm. Like, there's that too. And so these are all things that we're solving.
What we found too, Reid, is like a lot of times the carriers don't know what's important to the agents.
Yeah.
Like there was a local MGA here that started downloading, which is very innovative in this area. Most of the MGAs don't download.
They're starting to, by the way. There's a bunch that are starting to. Yeah.
Well, I mean, most of the ones in this area, but I'm sure a lot of them are having those conversations. And I think you have two problems in that. One, the agents don't know what they need.
Well, now they do. And
then two, carriers don't know what the agents say. Like, for example, like commission download. Like I tell, because we deal with a lot of these little insurtech carriers that none of them download yet. And I tell them, they're like, we're working on every one of them's working on download. We're working on download. And like, if you're not going to do commissions, don't do it. Like to me, the commission download is 100 times more important than the policy download. I can pay a VA to enter the policy in the system and it'll be right every single time, but it takes my accountant 6 hours to reconcile a commission statement with 40 policies on it. You know what I mean? Like to me, the commission download saves me way more time. I'm like, go ahead and just do everything. Don't just do one thing. And I know a lot of times they walk before they run. They start with policy and then they add documents and claims, that sort of thing. I get that. But we've run into that a lot with a bunch of carriers where it's like, hey, we have download now. Commission will be a year from now,
No bullshit. Sorry, no bullshit on this. When I built Tech Canary, the first thing we built was commissions and commission reconciliation for downloading commission, because it is so time consuming. And I don't understand why people don't do it.
It's the most
I don't understand why there's so many agencies that don't download commissions. And I'm like, They're like, no, we like to check the paper statements, and Sally goes and looks and like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, anyway, sorry.
Well, it's like when Vertifor bought Agency Zoom, we demoed QQ, but the singular reason we did not go with QQ was because our current management system has the ability to upload a CSV file and it reconciles. And QQ did not. It's like that was really? The management systems that are listening, that was the deciding factor. Like that was it, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to pay this accountant. It would take her a commission statement. I've got one right here. A commission statement with 40 policies on it, because our two biggest carriers don't download anything. With 40 policies would take her all day, and I'm having to pay those hours. Right. And before her, it was me doing it,
Hey,
I don't understand why agencies don't turn it on. I think they think, Reid, that like their team's going to be able to see it or something. Like, I don't know, like what the big bad commission boogeyman, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Reid, let me tell you what you need to do. Me and you just talking. Okay. You don't have to do it.
Trust tree.
Trust tree time. Trust tree. We're going secret time. Don't give these bastards a choice. You want to do downloads. Here's the price, and that's for commissions and policy downloads. There is no choice to do one or the other. You just do. You got to do both.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, it's just a package of the whole thing, and the commission thing just completely blows my mind. I've argued in my tech canary days. I've argued with agencies, and this wasn't when I was at Ivans. I'm like, you do that. They're like, well, no, we want to check to make sure that it's exactly what it should be.
Oh God.
And I'd say things like, out of how many statements that you've looked at, how often do you find something? Well, Mary found one the other day. How much was that? $50. So you pay a full-time employee $60,000 a year, whatever it may be, $50,000 a year to find $50 every couple of weeks. Like, and then what about the back charges? Are you guys getting those right? Like, how does that work? Correct. And they miss that. They leave money on the table. Like, oh, we pay projected. So a producer puts in the commissionable premium of, call it $1,000. They get whatever, $50 of that, right? But what if they accidentally fat fingered the commissionable premium? Like there's so many issues. It just, dude, otherwise it just flows in and it reconciles and it's done. I don't know, but Scott, here's the funny thing, man. We can't make anybody do anything.
Right.
You can't make one of these big carriers. I mean, these are guys, 50,000 employees. Like they're like, yeah, whatever.
Is it because Bradley and I both have direct appointments with carriers that don't download at all? And the excuse that I've heard, Bradley, tell me if I'm wrong about this, is cost in some cases. Like, we don't want to pay, or we're not at a point where we can pay for do this. And I'm like, okay. Is that an excuse you've heard before, Bradley? Because I know I've heard it somewhere with one of my carriers that's just don't do downloads, is they just don't want to pay for the.
I think some of it's that. I think some of them are too new. You see this a lot with InsurTechs. They're too new to even whether it's, they're a 3-man, like he said, a dog, a MacBook, and a, whatever. Or I've even seen some that I got the impression were too smart, air quotes. They were, they were too arrogant to, oh, that's the old way of doing things, right? I don't know how you can still say that with Reid Holzworth, with his hands on the steering wheel. And that's I'm not brown nosing you. I truly believe that. But I don't know. Like that, I have heard that as well. So to those carriers, Reid, and to the agents listening, so I'll tell a story real quick. So we had a carrier that downloads, but they wouldn't give it to me. And this is not a carrier will just make my head turn into a mushroom cloud. This is not a carrier that is competitive every single time. They're a case by case kind of, you're not going to write them every time, but they're a carrier everybody listening to this knows, or most people listening to this knows probably. And they told me, they said, when you get to 100 policies, we will download. We'll give you download. And I'm like, I'll pay for it. They're like, no, you got to get to 100 policies. And this type of carrier, you would only write 1 or 2 a month. That would be, that's normal, and it's not like you can, put your foot on the gas pedal and write 100 policies in 2 months. And so what I ended up doing is I said, can I send you something? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I have a media team. I get my media team to put a graphic together. And it's basically like, I don't know what the exact wording was. It's been like a year ago, was how Portal decides which carriers to put their business with. And it was like a hierarchy. It was a totem pole on a piece of paper. And number one was what's right for the risk. We're always going to go with what's right for the risk. Number two was carriers that make it easy on us to do business with them. Because if they make it easy on us to do business with them, we can make it easy on our clients to do business with us. Okay. Which is the singular reason that Amazon is so successful, that Geico is so successful, that some of these companies are it's ease of doing business, right? So I showed it to him and I'm like, all right, all the way at the bottom of that list is where you are going to be. And I'm not shitting you. I said it exactly like that. I said, so these are carriers that don't make it easy on us to do business with them. So that's how we're not going to get, basically what I'm trying to tell you is I would get to 100 policies much faster if you would download, because that moves you up here versus not giving it to me because I didn't get to 100 policies, which is the most like asinine back-ass backwards way. Like that is stupid in my opinion. And I understand there's costs. Tell me I got to pay for it till I get to 100 policies.
There's no, dude, it's so minimal. It's like those 100 policies cost them $1. Well,
like Progressive charges for it. And I think they charge like $25 a month or something. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not Progressive. Yeah. So the next day I got an email that's like, congratulations, you have download. So I think that's a true story. So I think it's going to come to a point to where agents have to say, hey, we're not writing you unless you download.
It is coming to that.
So give me some verbiage that the agents listening to this, like, how do we convince these newer insurtech carriers or some of the MGAs we work with? Like, how do we convince them to download? And furthermore, what do we have to do to get like RPS to download? Like talk to me, like, how do we do this? Like, how do we get this done? I will get applied tattoo on my arm if we could get this done.
Wow. I haven't, but yeah.
I'll get a tattoo on my arm.
Hey, Reid, hold on just a second. Can I be there for that?
So look, I mean, it's funny. I literally had this conversation yesterday with, I'm not going to name names, but you would know their name. Very well-known insurtech, huge traction in the industry. They were going at it alone.
Can I tell you who I think it is after we get off the air and you tell me if I'm right?
Yeah, after we get off the air. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And the CEO reaches out to me. I know him, whatever. And so he says, hey, let's jump on a call. He's like, Reid, like, just break it down to me. And I'm like, dude, look, it's as simple as this. Download is table stakes, man. And by you not downloading to your agents, if you're going to go after the independent market and you want distribution from the independents, by you not having downloads, it makes, like you said, it makes it more difficult on them to do business with you. You can have the fastest front end and be quick and do all this stuff, but they want the data. They want it to flow back. They want it to come into their system.
It's the most asinine thing that you can bind a policy in 30 seconds, but I have to manually enter it into my system. Sorry to interrupt you.
Nobody gets it. Like, they don't understand that. And some of them think it's like a control thing. We don't want them to have all the data because then we have it. Like, there's like weird stuff around that, which is bullshit, honestly. And so you're going to get it. If it's important to you, you're going to put it in, and then your CSR's, manually inputting all that information. And then it's not up to date. Policy change occurs throughout the term. You're not getting the renewal digitally. You're not getting, so like I spoke on a panel like early COVID days when COVID was just going crazy. And I had an agent on there, and he said, he came out of the crowd and he's like, listen, he's like, I had staff pre-COVID going into my office to manage our mail room. He's like, I realized how important eDocs are through download. And I said to my carrier partners, I'm not going to do business with you moving forward if you don't turn on eDocs, because I'm paying for staff to come in and to manage a mail room because you won't just send this stuff to me electronically, right? That's just one of the things. And so it is starting to happen. We've seen huge ramp in connectivity and demand from the agents for this stuff since all of this. But really, I mean, to go back to the point, so how do you fix it? We can't do that. The distribution, you guys are their sales arm. You're the number one sales guy out there in the field. And if you say things like you said, like, listen, this makes it difficult for me to do business with you, and therefore you're not going to be on the top of my list, they will change. And it's not expensive. Like, people think like download for these carriers is huge money. It's not. It really isn't. You know, it's a cost, but it's not a big cost. And we have done studies on it that show they ramp policy-wise, and they get adoption through their distribution when they turn this stuff on. So anyways, I'll get off that soapbox. But
hey, Reid, I have the question to end all questions for you today. You're a scary smart guy. You've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And there's something that Bradley and I have talked about ad nauseum, that if you could figure this out and you could crack this code, and maybe you can, maybe you can't, based on how the setup is there some way, and maybe you just need some time to think about this, is there any way that you could figure out a way for these MGAs and brokers, they're the middleman between us as the agent and the carrier, to figure out some way for them on agency billed accounts that, as you know, is all manual and all, none of that downloads, and we can't download because we're the middleman, they're the carrier. And how are we going to do that? Is there some way that you could figure out how they could do that?
Right. Like, why? Like if you, like, we have a lot of business with RPS. If you talk to an RPS underwriter, they're going to tell you that, oh, we're the biggest MGA in the world. Why are you not downloading? I'm sure you're downloading internally. Why aren't you not downloading to the agents?
So I'll say this: we already have, and we are. So we're connecting these guys. Like, this has been the majority of our new sales pipeline over the last year has been through MGAs. So some of the actual largest ones have already signed up with Ivans, and they're going through an implementation. So we have figured that out, and we are working towards that. So it is possible. Now, MGA world is a weird world. Like, the smaller ones, like, they may never, right? But the bigger players, I mean, they're signing up like hotcakes, man.
Well, they're signing up for them.
No, to provide to the agencies.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So is this something that's like the implementation's happening now? Like, I can't call up a GenCap or an RPS and say, hey, I want downloads. Can I?
Yeah. Yeah. When are you guys going to do that? Guarantee we've already talked to them, if they're not already going through some sort of implementation. Yeah.
See, I don't, Bradley, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think you could call an RPS and they'd be like, oh yeah, we can do that? Or do you think they'd be like, oh, we don't do that?
Yeah, you can do that. The problem is with a lot of these MGAs, your rep is your underwriter, and you can't talk to your underwriter about that, because really they're like almost at the bottom of the totem pole. Like, I asked my underwriter at Bass when I started my independent agency, I thought everybody downloaded. And I remember asking my underwriter at Bass Underwriters, I was like, hey, do you guys download the Ivans? And he's like, what's that? I don't know what you mean. Download? What are you talking about? Like, he was genuinely confused. But I think getting in front, I mean, obviously the guy sitting here telling you, I think getting in front of the right person is the key, though. Like, how do we,
it is that stuff. I could totally see it. It's like, who do I talk to?
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to interview the CEOs of every one of these MGAs, and they're going to think it's a podcast. When we get them on here, we're going to be like, hey, Scott and I want download first.
I'll do a guest appearance. I'll just pop in when that conversation occurs.
I've been bamboozled.
Well, that would be interesting. After they just got through telling us how they don't download, can't do that, no way, it's impossible. And then all of a sudden, Reid pops up on the screen. He goes, hey, guys.
Let me tell you a funny story. So that carrier that MGA that started downloading, they, for some reason, only wanted to download, they were only under the impression that they could download applied and Vertafore management systems. I'm not on an applied or Vertafore management system. So I'm on the phone with a guy at the carrier, and I'm known as a squeaky wheel, as you can imagine, amongst my partners. And I'm like, hey, like, why? And they know we're only downloading to Vertafore and applied. I'm like, I get that some management systems, like, you actually have to configure it, but like now certs, it's like they'll accept it and it'll, like, all you have to do is send it. and I'm like, and he's like, yeah, well, because, and now certs, we're not configured for now certs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hang on a second. And I called now certs and I get the CTO. I'm like, hey, I'm on here with the CTO of now certs. Tell him what you just told me. And like the next day I had it. So it would kind of be a version of that. It'd be like, oh no, we don't. And then Reid pops up. Reid's head just comes up out of one of those cars behind him. And is like, hey, that's not true.
I used to deal with that at Tech Canary. What the problem is that a lot of carriers don't quote unquote certify the individual systems because they believe that the systems are consuming the files differently, which in the past, like a Vertafore format versus an applied format versus an EasyLinks format versus a Hawksoft format, so on and so on and so on, they can be a little bit different. Like you can basically work with the carrier to kind of nuance some stuff. But when we wrote it at Tech Canary, similar to like what Peter's done at NowCerts and some of these other guys, like they're just writing it to work regardless, and that's what we did. And frankly, I mean, sometimes, we needed the carriers, but the carriers don't actually certify it. And they think it's going to break. If they
exactly. It was a misunderstanding on their part, but you also deal with, especially at some of these especially at MGAs, you deal with some of these people that I call box checkers.
Yep.
Which is, or card grabbers. The rep that comes by and while he's acting like he cares what you're talking about, he's reaching across and he grabs your business card and puts it in his pocket. That way he can prove to his boss that he met with you that day. So you deal with people that literally their only goal is to get you off the phone and record the fact that you talked. Like it's not, they're going to tell you what they think is going to get you off the phone the fastest, but kind of on this same subject, I know we're getting really granular here, but this so here's a problem that I have that I think a lot of agents probably have. And it's the same MGA actually. They're E&S. So it's, base premium, commission fee, another fee, inspection fee, breathing fee, all that kind of stuff. Privilege for doing business fee. So when their download comes in, it's wrong. And what's happening is when it comes in, it's everything added together. It doesn't break it out. And so the CEO of this company was in my office back around Christmas. And I was like, hey, how's the download stuff going? And he's like, man, none of these agents appreciate it. I'm like, this is not right. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the numbers come in, they're not right. Like, I know of an agent right now, a good buddy of mine, who turned it off with that carrier. Like, you should never have to do that. I'm not saying he did something wrong, but you should, like, if you feel that you need to turn a download off for a carrier, it's a carrier problem, right? So I told him, I was like, I would either break it out download wise, have it broken down, or just send the base premium. Don't even send the fees, because what happens is when that number comes in, NowCerts automatically calculates all of our commission. So what my bookkeeper is having to do, and thankfully we don't have much business with this carrier, but when she goes in to reconcile, she has to go in and fix it. I'm like, well, that's like defeating the whole purpose. So like, what's the conversation that I need to have with them on how they can fix that? Or is it a NowCerts problem? Is it that NowCerts not receiving the data correctly?
I would say this. That's what we're here for. Ivans, we're here to help. Like, it could be coming from the carrier, the way the carrier or the MGA in this example has written it. They wrote it incorrectly. The translation of how it comes out of their system and how it's sent to all of these different systems is incorrect, which is something we can help the carrier with. We can even do the work, this and that and the other. Sometimes that is what you just identified, and that's where the individual agency management certifications come into play. Why I said, like, the file format is different for Vertafore versus blah, 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 blah. And it can be different for not even just Vertafore. It can be different for AMS versus Sajida, right? And so, or Epic versus TAM. It's, it can be different things for that reason, right? But if you let us know, you let the vendor know, like, I know NowCerts really well, really good dudes. Like, those guys are all about it. You have a conversation with those guys, they'll be on it to solve the problem.
I think I mentioned it to them and they said it was on the other end. This has been going on for a while. So,
and if it is, bring it to our attention, and bring it to us at Ivans, and we'll facilitate. We'll figure out what's actually going on.
Just give me the Reid hotline and I'll send every problem your way. I'm kidding.
Hey, man, you got my number. Call my cell phone. I don't care.
Reid, I got the last question of the day for you. I have one job in this industry, one job, and that's to help insurance agents any way I can. So we're going to get down now to the lowest common denominator. For those agents that are listening to this podcast right now, and they are either about to open up an independent agency, which you and I, Bradley, we've all been through.
Yep.
Or maybe they've been a captive and they're coming over to the independent world, or maybe they're just getting into the industry and they're opening up their own agency. Maybe they're buying an agency would probably be a little easier. Tell them, Reid, what they need to do to get their Ivan's number, the Ivan's code that you have to get downloads, because I guarantee you there are people that get in the industry and don't even know, they're getting these direct appointments, or maybe they join a cluster, but they don't even know that they have to call Ivan's to get an Ivan's number to start getting downloads at all.
And sometimes it depends on the AMS too. I think some AMSs will get it for you.
Yeah, right.
You
but
can
talk a little bit about that. Like how does that process work?
You can call a carrier and the carrier will set you up. They'll give you the Ivan's ID. They'll set up your initial Ivan's ID, and then they'll start sending it. The way it works is,
and you just need one ID. You don't have to call every carrier.
Yeah, it's like a Y and YX, as we call it. And so you get one Ivan's ID, and a carrier can actually provision that for you when it downloads. But then what happens then is you go to all of your other carriers and you give them that ID.
Right.
But it won't actually accept the data until one of those carriers sends a file in. And so typically, like if say, hey, I'm a new agent, I don't have a lot of appointments, which one of these carriers downloads? Let's go call them up, get them to set me up. They turn it on, boom, and then the file comes in. Now you're good to go. Right. And then you just give that to everybody else, and you're done.
Right.
It just flows in.
Well, you're done. You're done then. But as I told everybody in the middle of this podcast, I'm telling you guys, if you never listen to anything I say, about once every 6 months. I mean, I know agencies. One of my mentors told me one time, he said, Scott, we didn't check our Ivan's downloads for like 3 or 4 years, like a long time. This was back in the early 2000s. Hell, they weren't getting but about 40% of their damn downloads coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've seen. We found one last year. They had 2,100 available connections. 2,100.
Yeah,
that's lines of business by carrier. Big, big agency. Crazy, dude.
Yeah, guys,
there's people that'll say you shouldn't call your late pays because it's exposure, but yet they've only got three connections out of 2,100 available. Like,
how you guys, I'm talking to our audience right now, the 250,000 agents listening. You know how about once every 6 months you go to the dentist and get your teeth checked and cleaned? That's what I'm talking about right now. About once every 6 months, it should pop up on your Google Calendar or whatever you use. Tomorrow, call or email or check the Ivan's Exchange dashboard and see how our downloads are doing. Same thing.
Well, and I'll say this too, sorry, Scott, go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
I think whatever the company, whether it's a carrier, an agent, a carrier, a technology, MGA, Ivan's, whoever, change only happens when there's people who are pushing and trying to make that change happen. And, part of what I view, I don't know about Scott, but part of what I view my role as an industry, as someone in the industry, is to call out the BS when I see it, and then call out the good stuff when I see it, and not be scared to do that. And, I have in the past been a vocal, I'm not going to say critic, but that's the word that's coming to mind, of some of the old ways of Ivan's doing things. This is pre-Reid. And I can tell you now unequivocally that I'm very excited with you at the helm with the future of Ivan's. And I mean that.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I think we're going to see good things.
Reid, I got one last question for you. Can I get your cell number and call you when I'm going to be down there, text you and let you know when I'm going to be there so we can go to dinner?
Oh yeah, man. We'll do some fishing. We'll have some fun. 100%.
So I went down there last year, and my wife said, I want to go bridge fishing. I said, baby, whatever you want. You want to go bridge fishing? We'll go bridge fishing. Dude picked us up in one of my old vans with white panel vans, and we drove about 30 minutes south of Key West.
North. There's no other than south. North.
Sorry, north. Yeah.
Yep.
South.
Yeah,
Cuba,
you're right.
Cuba.
Yeah, that's
Cuba
the
south.
southernmost point. So
Yeah.
you're right, north. And we bridge fished the whole afternoon. Well, let me tell you what Scott did. Biggest mistake of my life. I have pictures of this, and Bradley Flowers would be on the floor right now laughing. We get finished fishing, and she catches a bunch of fish. I hardly caught anything, but she's catching all kinds of stuff. I forgot to put suntan lotion on.
Oh, man.
I get back to the room that night. My face, chest, back, and arms are as red as that Coke bottle right there. I was miserable. But boy, it was a good time, man. We had a great time. It was a lot of fun. But I look forward to seeing you down there sometime, because I really enjoy going down there. It's very relaxing, and God knows I need that right now. So
Key West is awesome, man. It's one of my favorite places. I've had a place down there for a number of years. It's good stuff.
If you've had a place down there for a number of years, there ain't no telling what that thing's worth now.
Oh, it's insane. And they're
stupid money.
They're stopping building permits for you can't build on dirt anymore in about a year or so. So it's ludicrous. Yeah.
You know, when I was down there, I hate to get off on a tangent for a second. I know we need to go. I noticed one thing. So what was happening is all the real estate agents down there, as soon as a property, they'd figure out like a local or somebody wanted to sell something, they gobble it up and then lipstick it and turn around and resell it.
Oh yeah.
Almost every house that was like needed some work done to it had a dumpster in front of it. Real estate agent owned it, and they were trying to, fix it up a little bit and then flip it is what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that going on.
Great.
Reid, thank you so much. You have an open invitation here anytime. We love you very, very much. And I am so excited about you and what you're doing for Ivans. I think that you are a game changer for them. I think that we as an agency force need to follow Bradley's lead. Doesn't mean you got to be rude to people. I'm not saying you got to be rude.
Never rude.
But, help them understand, guys, we are going to do business with carriers. Greatest distribution system ever created in mankind, independent agency.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do business with carriers that make it easy to do business. And when I got to hire 14 people and VAs out of the Philippines to put stuff in my management system, and now we got to figure out commissions and all this, that's not easy, guys. It's not easy. What is easy is when that stuff just downloads into our AMS system every month. That's easy, really easy. So that's all I have to say about that. As I end every episode, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Go out into the big bad world. Make money for your family, for your wife, for your husband, for your kids' college fund, for your parents that are struggling out there. Go make money for them today. Write good business for the companies that you represent, and write good business for the agencies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Reid.
Hey, appreciate it, man. It's a good time. Thanks for having me.
You're the best. Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of our family, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at scott@iprotectinsurance.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to portalinsurance.com or email him at bradley@portalinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. And thank you so much for listening to our show and being a part of our family. And we look forward to seeing you again next week on the next episode of the Insurance Guys podcast. Take care.